Season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen is where everything falls apart. We start with Gojo's past, see how the strongest sorcerer became who he is, and then jump straight into the Shibuya Incident, a non-stop disaster that changes the Jujutsu world forever. Before we dive into the recap, go and watch the recap of the first season if you haven't. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you see. So without further ado, let's get into the recap. Suguru Geto was walking through dark alleyways looking for cursed spirits. That summer, they were showing up more often than usual. In one alley, he spotted a cursed spirit feeding on a dead man. Without hesitation, Suguru absorbed it using his cursed spirit manipulation. He hated the nasty feeling of tasting curses, but reminded himself it was part of the job. The story goes back to 2006. Two sorcerers, Mei, a grade 1, and Utahime Iori, grade 2, were sent to check out a haunted mansion in Hamamatsu City. The place was creepy, full of trash and signs of missing people. An assistant manager drove them there while Utahime prepared to cast a curtain, a kind of protective barrier. Mei stopped her, saying they didn't need it since they'd handled the curse directly. Inside, Utahime got nervous walking through the filthy rooms, but Mei stayed calm. They decided to split up to cover more ground, though they kept running into each other. Mei realized they were stuck in a barrier set up by the cursed spirit to trap victims. Mei figured the spirit wasn't strong and could be defeated, but they had to escape the barrier first. She asked Utahime for ideas, basically quizzing her. Utahime noticed the hallway wasn't circular, it was straight, and the barrier was constantly patching itself as they moved. She suggested running straight down it as fast as possible to break the barrier, and Mei added that they should run in opposite directions. They tried it, and at first it seemed to work. But then the whole mansion started collapsing. Utahime jumped out just in time and survived under some rubble. Once she was clear, she ran into her junior Satoru Gojo, who had come to help. A huge cursed spirit appeared to attack Utahime. Suguru summoned an even bigger curse to stop it from moving, and teased Satoru for being reckless. Utahime was relieved to see Shoko, her only source of comfort, who joked that she wouldn't end up like the boys. After the chaos, Mei mentioned she'd earned 2 days' pay for the assignment and asked about the curtain. Everyone realized no one had actually set it up. Back at Jujutsu High, Masamichi Yaga scolded the students. Satoru tried to avoid blame, but Suguru and Shoko quickly pointed fingers at him. Masamichi gave Satoru a little punishment before the students headed to the gym for some downtime. While Shoko played with Satoru's glasses, the two boys had a debate. Satoru thought protecting weak people was exhausting, while Suguru insisted it was every sorcerer's duty. Their argument escalated until Suguru summoned a curse to threaten Satoru. Just then, Masamichi came in with a new mission. The strongest students were to escort the star plasma vessel to Master Tengen and erase her. Satoru and Suguru were confused by the erase her part and teased Masamichi. He explained that Tengen's technique needed to merge with the star plasma vessel to stay stable, or else it could become dangerous. The vessel was being targeted by two groups, Q and the Time Vessel Association. The merger was in 2 days, and their job was to protect her. Satoru asked why the Time Vessel Association wanted the vessel. Suguru explained that they were anti-curse people who saw the merger as impure. They arrived at the hotel where the vessel was staying. Suguru went in to secure her while Satoru stayed outside, overconfident on the phone. Suguru reprimanded him, then rang the doorbell. A girl answered, but a bomb went off right after. Suguru used a cursed spirit to shield himself and saw the girl falling. He summoned another cursed spirit to catch her safely. Meanwhile, Q soldier Kokun checked on the vessel but found Suguru taunting him instead. Another Q soldier, Bayer, threw knives at Satoru, who blocked them with his infinity ability. Bayer, impressed, challenged Satoru, who told him he wouldn't kill anyone as long as they begged for mercy. From a nearby skyscraper, 2 men watched the attack. One, Shiu Kong, offered a contract to a man now calling himself Fushiguro to kill the star plasma vessel. He accepted the job. Suguru calmly makes himself a cup of tea while one of his cursed spirits keeps Kokun completely restrained. Kokun can't move at all, except for one arm that he uselessly waves around as the cursed spirit keeps trying to lick and kiss him. Suguru sits nearby and pretends he can't hear Kokun yelling. Elsewhere, Shiu Kong, who works as a middleman for the Time Vessel Association, meets Toji. Toji has just accepted the job to kill the star plasma vessel, but instead of working, he's betting on races he keeps losing. Shiu asks why he hasn't gone after the girl yet. Toji explains that fighting Satoru head-on would be stupid, so he's using the advance payment to slowly wear him down instead. He doesn't explain how. Back at the hotel, Satoru and Suguru talk about whether Riko should see a doctor. They wish they knew how to use reverse curse technique like Shoko, but she's always bad at explaining it. Riko Amanai wakes up and immediately smacks Satoru. She takes a defensive stance and threatens both boys, convinced they're enemies. Her caregiver, Masato Kuroi, walks in and sees the chaos. She quickly explains that Satoru and Suguru are actually protecting her. Satoru comments that Riko isn't what he expected for someone meant to merge with Tengen. Riko proudly declares that she is Tengen and Tengen is her. The boys casually ignore her speech and tease her instead, which annoys her. When they joke about her not having any friends, Riko suddenly realizes she's missing school. She asks to go back just for the day. Satoru objects, but Masamichi explains over the phone that Tengen wants them to fulfill all of Riko's wishes. Misato adds that Riko lost her family young and deserves to enjoy her last day normally. Suguru smiles and gently says Misato is her family now. While things seem calm, Suguru notices that some of his surveillance cursed spirits are being taken out. At the same time, Toji eats at a restaurant, watching races and waiting. He's placed a bounty on Riko using the deposit money, attracting curse users from everywhere. Suguru heads off to deal with the attackers while Satoru and Misato search for Riko to get her out safely. At Riko's school, Suguru runs into an elderly curse user who summons 2 simple Shikigami. Suguru realizes the man expected multiple Jujutsu high sorcerers and prepared accordingly. The curse user assumes Suguru avoids close combat and tries to plan around that. Instead, Suguru suddenly summons a massive worm-like curse that fills the hallway and seems to swallow the man whole. Suguru turns to leave, but the curse user bursts through a window behind him. Just as he thinks he's winning, Suguru overwhelms him with superior hand-to-hand combat. Suguru reveals he was actually baiting him into close range the entire time. After knocking him out, Suguru asks who sent him, Q or the Time Vessel Association. Meanwhile, Satoru casually walks into Riko's music class, instantly drawing everyone's attention. He pulls Riko out mid-lesson. She's upset, but understands he's keeping her friends out of danger. A curse user wearing a bag mask spots them leaving. Misato confronts the attacker and surprises him with a well-placed low blow. Suguru arrives shortly after, impressed. He explains that there's a bounty on Riko posted online for curse users, expiring at 11 a.m. the next day. As they talk, the curse user suddenly melts away. Suguru calls Satoru to warn him, but it's too late. Satoru and Riko are surrounded by 4 clones of the same curse user. A 5th appears, but Satoru slams it into another using blue. The remaining clones rush him, only to stop dead against infinity before being taken out easily. Satoru explains the enemy's technique allows up to 5 bodies and lets him switch which one is real. When asked how he knows, Satoru simply says he has good eyes. He tries using red, fails completely, announces the failure out loud, and just punches the curse user instead. Riko floats beside him the whole time, thanks to Satoru's technique. Then her phone buzzes. She looks at the message and freezes. Misato has been kidnapped. Masato Kuroi is kidnapped by a group of non-curse users, while Suguru briefly leaves her side to help Satoru protect Riko. Once everyone regroups, they talk through their options. Riko wants to help rescue Kuroi, but Satoru shuts that down immediately. He tells her that if bringing her along even slightly lowers Kuroi's chances of survival, he'll leave her behind. He also warns her that if she joins the mission, they'll ignore any last-minute requests to quit and go home. The rescue itself goes surprisingly smoothly. Afterward, the 4 of them head to Okinawa and spend time relaxing on the beach like nothing serious ever happened. While they're there, Kuroi asks Suguru if the enemy might try to trap Riko in Okinawa by taking over the airport. Suguru says they thought of that already and sent backup to patrol Naha Airport. The backup turns out to be 2 Jujutsu High first years, Kento Nanami and Yu Haibara. Nanami isn't thrilled about being assigned such an important job, but Haibara stays upbeat and says they should do their best to make their senpai proud. The next day, they head back to Jujutsu High, and the time limit on Riko's bounty finally runs out. Suguru compliments Satoru for holding out so long, and Satoru finally relaxes and turns off infinity. He complains about never wanting to babysit again, right before a sword suddenly pierces straight through his chest. Toji Fushiguro appears behind him. Suguru is shocked that someone got past the barrier at all. Satoru blasts Toji into the air with blue, and Suguru summons his massive worm-like cursed spirit to swallow him. Suguru checks Satoru's injury, but Satoru says the vital organs were missed and he reinforced himself with cursed energy. Confident, he tells Suguru to finish escorting Riko while he handles the assassin. assassin. Toji cuts his way out of the cursed spirit using a different blade. Suguru notices there's also a cursed spirit wrapped around Toji's body. Toji admits he's rusty and meant to kill Satoru with the first strike. He also reveals that he set the bounty timer himself to trick Satoru into finally dropping Infinity. Satoru attacks again, but Toji dodges easily. He swaps weapons mid-fight, using the cursed spirit around him, and switches to a smaller dagger. Satoru realizes the problem. Toji has no cursed energy at all, just raw physical power thanks to a heavenly restriction. The fight turns chaotic. Satoru launches Toji through buildings but suddenly loses track of him. He clears the area with a powerful blue, but Toji releases a swarm of flyhead curses to mess with Satoru's senses. Thinking Riko might be in danger, Satoru turns his back, and that's the opening Toji needs. Toji stabs through Infinity with the inverted Spear of Heaven, a weapon that cancels cursed techniques. He slashes Satoru repeatedly, then finishes by stabbing him in the head. Smiling, Toji says he's finally getting his edge back. Elsewhere, Suguru escorts Riko and Kuroi to the Tombs of the Star. Before the final step, Suguru gives Riko a choice: continue with the merger or go home with Kuroi. He explains that even he and Satoru agreed they'd support whatever decision she made. Riko breaks down and admits she wants to keep living. Suguru reaches out to take her home when she's suddenly shot and killed right in front of him. Toji steps out, tells Suguru the mission is over, and casually says he already killed Satoru Gojo. Furious, Suguru summons Rainbow Dragon and Kuchisake Onna and tells Toji to die. Right in front of Suguru, Toji shoots Riko and kills her instantly. Still in shock, Suguru asks why Toji is even here. Toji casually answers that he already killed Satoru Gojo. That's enough for Suguru. He tells Toji to die and sends his cursed spirit, Rainbow Dragon, charging at him. The dragon smashes into Toji and crashes through several buildings, dragging him along. Even while being tossed around, Toji casually fires his gun. Suguru is forced to summon another cursed spirit just to block the bullets. Suguru moves to a lower level of the Tombs of the Star, while Toji breaks free from the dragon and starts walking around the upper floor of the half-destroyed structure like nothing happened. Toji explains that barriers don't really work on him. Suguru listens to his footsteps and tries to attack from below, but Toji dodges the cursed spirit attacks easily. When Suguru asks about Kuroi, Toji shrugs and says she's probably dead. That answer makes Suguru furious. He sends Rainbow Dragon after Toji again and launches him into the air. Suguru fires off cursed spirit attacks non-stop, but Toji swats them aside one by one. Then Toji slices Rainbow Dragon clean in half with a single strike, destroying the toughest curse Suguru has. As the platform drops through multiple buildings, it's finally caught by Kuchisake Onna's barrier. Her simple domain forces non-violence until Toji answers her question, "Am I pretty?" Toji sizes her up and bluntly says she's not his type. Instantly, massive scissor blades appear, ready to cut him apart. Toji reacts fast, pulling out the inverted Spear of Heaven and deflecting every blade with ease. Suguru uses the opening to get behind Toji, but Toji calls him stupid for getting close. Suguru tries to absorb Toji's cursed spirit to shut down his weapons, but it rejects him. Toji slashes Suguru and Kuchisake Onna down with a katana and finishes with a powerful kick. All of this happens just as the falling platform finally crashes to the ground. Toji decides not to kill Suguru. He admits he doesn't know what would happen to all the cursed spirits Suguru has absorbed if he dies. Before leaving, Toji mocks sorcerers, saying that even with all their blessings, they still couldn't beat a monkey who can't use Jujutsu. As Toji walks away, Satoru Gojo suddenly appears, very much alive. He's clearly different now, half delirious and riding a massive power high. Satoru says Toji lost because he didn't finish the job properly. Toji says they're just getting started. Excited, Satoru agrees, and the fight resumes. Toji attacks at full speed, but Satoru dodges easily and fires his first successful red. Toji survives and calls Satoru a monster. He regroups, attaches the chain of 1,000 miles to the inverted Spear of Heaven, and attacks again. Satoru casually apologizes for not feeling sad about Riko's death. He admits he just feels incredible right now. Smiling, he declares that he alone stands above everyone else. Toji knows about Limitless, but not what comes next. In one shot, Satoru finishes him with Hollow Purple. As his body is destroyed, Toji realizes he should have trusted his instincts and walked away. Asked for last words, he mentions Megumi and tells Satoru that his son will be sold to the Zenin clan soon. Later, Suguru recovers, absorbs Toji's inventory cursed spirit, and meets up with Satoru. Seeing how much Satoru has changed unsettles him. Satoru asks if they should kill the celebrated celebrating non-sorcerers nearby. Suguru says there's no point. Satoru asks if there even needs to be one. Quietly, Suguru says that for sorcerers, there always has to be a point. It's August 2007. About a year after the failed escort mission, Suguru and Shoko are helping Satoru show off how much stronger he's gotten. Satoru has automated infinity, can run reverse curse technique non-stop, and is close to mastering domain expansion. With Satoru able to handle missions alone and Shoko rarely sent out on dangerous work, Suguru ends up doing mission after mission by himself. That summer is especially rough, with cursed spirits appearing non-stop. The cycle of fighting them and absorbing them starts to grind him down. He compares it to eating a filthy rag over and over again. He tries to wash the feeling away in the shower, but the thoughts won't stop. For a whole year, Suguru keeps telling himself to stay righteous and protect people. Still, he can't forget the sound of non-sorcerers cheering during the Star Plasma incident. Later, Suguru sits alone in a lounge near a vending machine. Yu Haibara spots him and cheerfully comes over. Yu excitedly talks about an upcoming mission, and Suguru asks him how he feels about being a sorcerer. A woman suddenly walks in and casually asks what kind of women they like. Yu immediately answers that he likes women who eat well. Suguru is surprised he answered so easily, but Yu says he can tell she's a good person and leaves them alone. The woman introduces herself as Yuki Tsukumo, a special grade sorcerer. Suguru recognizes her as the sorcerer famous for avoiding missions and traveling overseas. Yuki jokes that she hates Jujutsu High, but then gets serious. She believes the higher-ups only deal with cursed spirits after they appear instead of fixing the real problem. Her goal is to create a world without cursed spirits. She explains there are two ways to do that: remove cursed energy from humanity entirely, or make it so everyone can control it. Toji Zenin was a perfect example of the first option since he had zero cursed energy, but now that he's dead, Yuki is focused on the second. Suguru bluntly suggests killing all non-sorcerers. Yuki asks Suguru if he hates non-sorcerers. He can't answer clearly. Part of him looks down on them, while another part wants to stay a good sorcerer. Yuki tells him neither feeling is fully settled yet and that he'll need to make a choice someday. She leaves shortly after, mentioning that Tengen is stable thanks to another Star Plasma vessel appearing. Not long after, Nanami returns early from a mission with Yu. The job went terribly wrong. The curse was far stronger than expected, and Yu was killed. Nanami vents his anger in the morgue, throwing things around. Suguru tells him to rest, but the loss sticks with him too. To Suguru, being a sorcerer feels like running a marathon that only ends with piles of dead friends. During another mission, Suguru exorcises a curse terrorizing a village. Instead of being grateful, the villagers blame two young sorcerer girls who are beaten and locked in a cage. Suguru tries to explain the truth, but they won't listen. Seeing the girls treated like this makes something snap. Suguru kills everyone in the village. Jujutsu High investigates the incident. Suguru is expelled and sentenced to death. Masamichi Yaga breaks the news to Satoru, including that Suguru also killed his own parents. Satoru refuses to believe it. Angry and confused, he can't accept what's happened. In Shinjuku, Shoko runs into Suguru and asks if the rumors are true. He admits they are. She calls Satoru, who confronts Suguru in the street. Suguru calmly confirms everything and says he's chosen how to live. He asks Satoru whether he's strong because he's Satoru Gojo, or if being strong made him who he is. Satoru can't answer. Satoru aims purple but can't bring himself to fire. Years later, Satoru meets a young Megumi Fushiguro. Despite the awkward introduction, Satoru promises to look out for him. A decade after that, Satoru wakes up surrounded by his students. Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara are walking around the city, trying to figure out how to spend their day off. Megumi eventually decides to head back to Jujutsu High, while Yuji tries to convince Nobara to go see a movie with him, Human Earthworm 4. He enthusiastically explains the plot and even shows her the trailer, but Nobara is completely unimpressed. As the three split up, a teenage girl around their age watches Yuji from across the street. Back in the city, the girl who was watching Yuji gathers her courage and approaches Nobara instead. They decide to talk at a restaurant, where the girl introduces herself as Yuko Ozawa. She explains that she and Yuji went to middle school together. Back then, she was much shorter and chubbier, but her appearance has changed a lot since. Through some careful hints, Yuko lets Nobara know she'd like to see Yuji again. Nobara quickly catches on and blurts out, "Oh, it's like that!" Yuko shyly admits she has a crush on Yuji. Now fully invested, Nobara decides to help. She calls Ichichi and has him bring Megumi back into the city and drop him off at the restaurant. When Nobara explains the situation, even Megumi reacts with a surprised, "It's like that!" Megumi confirms that Yuji doesn't have a girlfriend and casually mentions that Yuji likes tall girls. That's enough to give both Nobara and Yuko a confidence boost. Nobara calls Yuji to join them, and to everyone's surprise, Yuji recognizes Yuko immediately. Yuko realizes that Yuji remembered her without hesitation and never reduced her to how she looked back then. That hits her harder than she expected. She feels embarrassed for assuming Yuji was like other boys who only judged her based on her weight. Because of that, Yuko decides not to confess her feelings. She leaves without asking for Yuji's number. Megumi asks Nobara if that's really okay, and Nobara calmly reveals that she exchanged numbers with Yuko herself, so it's fine. Not long after, Yuji catches up with Megumi and Nobara and once again pressures them to go see the movie with him. Later on, the trio meets up with Utahime Yori to investigate the suspected mole within Jujutsu High. They head to the location where Kokichi Muta's real body is believed to be hidden. By process of elimination, they conclude that Kokichi, known as Mekamaru, be the traitor. His cursed technique, puppet manipulation, is the only one capable of long-distance surveillance. At Kyoto Jujutsu High, Kasumi Miwa reminds Mekamaru that it's the last day to turn in their notebooks. The puppet tells her he needs to rest. He's expecting visitors, but not Utahime and the others. When they arrive, they discover the hideout is fake, confirming that Kokichi really is the mole. In reality, Kokichi is meeting with Geto and Mahito. He has made a binding vow with them. In exchange for information, Mahito will fix his damaged body. Mahito wants to kill Kokichi afterward, but Geto warns him that breaking a binding vow would have serious consequences. Reluctantly, Mahito heals Kokichi using idol transfiguration. Once healed, Kokichi immediately turns on them. He summons multiple Mekamaru puppets to fight Mahito, then escapes before blowing up the hideout. Mahito and Geto survive and emerge near a large lake. From the water rises Kokichi's ultimate creation, Mekamaru mode, Absolute. This massive form is piloted by Kokichi from inside. He's been storing cursed energy for 17 years and plans to use it all to fight Mahito. He knows his odds aren't great, and his survival depends on contacting Satoru Gojo for help. Having recorded everything, Kokichi believes he has a chance. He opens the fight by firing an ultra cannon powered by an entire year's worth of cursed energy in a single shot. Mahito survives Mekamaru's ultra cannon, even though it hits him from extremely close range. He quickly moves around the battlefield, dodging the giant puppet's punches and kicks. Kokichi knows his normal attacks won't hurt Mahito's soul, but he isn't panicking. He has a plan. Kokichi charges up 2 years' worth of cursed energy and fires the miracle cannon into the water. Mahito avoids serious damage again, though his clothes are completely burned off. He responds by enlarging his fist and punching Mekamaru in the face, shaking the cockpit hard. That hit makes it clear to Kokichi that if this fight goes on much longer, Mahito could tear Mekamaru apart. Switching tactics, Kokichi connects a mechanical tube inside the cockpit and loads it with a cursed technique. Mekamaru fires the tube from its finger, and it pierces Mahito's shoulder. Mahito ignores it at first, assuming Mekamaru still can't hurt his soul, until his entire left arm suddenly explodes. Kokichi immediately takes advantage of the opening. Mekamaru kicks Mahito through the forest, sending him flying. When Mekamaru tries to follow up, Mahito escapes by transforming into a bird-like form and flying away. Kokichi notices that Mahito changed his appearance to hide the damage, which confirms the attack worked. Even Geto is surprised that Kokichi's strategy is actually effective. Mechamaru keeps the pressure on by firing Pigeon Viola to chase Mahito through the air. Mahito keeps fleeing, transforming into different animals as he moves through the forest. Since he doesn't know which attacks are hurting him, Mahito becomes much more cautious. Mahito tries to fight back by cutting some of the wires connected to Mekamaru's head, but Mekamaru counters right away and sends him flying again. Feeling confident, Kokichi loads another technique-filled tube and prepares to finish the fight. Before he can, Mahito expands his domain, self-embodiment of perfection. Mahito assumes Kokichi didn't expect him to use a domain since Shibuya is only 10 days away, and he claims he has plenty of time to recover afterward. Thinking he's won, Mahito turns his back, only for Mechamaru to stab him again with another technique tube. Kokichi reveals the trick. He protected himself from the domain and injured Mahito using new shadow style, simple domain, which was loaded into the tubes. Mahito's body collapses, and for a moment, it looks like Kokichi has finally defeated him. Geto even admits he's impressed. Kokichi turns toward Geto, but he celebrates too early. Mahito suddenly crashes into Mechamaru's cockpit, still alive. A smaller Mechamaru appears to hold Mahito back while Kokichi prepares one last attack, planning to stab Mahito directly himself. Mahito destroys the puppet, and both of them go for their final moves at the same time. Unfortunately for Kokichi, Mahito touches him first. Back at Kyoto Jujutsu High, Kasumi Miwa sits beside the sleeping Mechamaru puppet and talks about how much closer everyone has become since the baseball game. She says she wants to visit Kokichi's real body someday, unaware that he has already died. Mahito later meets up with Geto, who asks if the fight was tougher than expected. Mahito brushes it off, claiming he blew himself up on purpose and was never in real danger. With that fight over, Geto and Mahito confirm that all preparations for the Shibuya Incident are complete. 10 days later, on October 31st, just after 7 p.m., a massive 400-meter curtain drops over Shibuya. Civilians are trapped inside and told they can't leave until Satoru Gojo arrives. Multiple teams of Jujutsu sorcerers wait outside as backup, including Megumi, Nanami, Nobara, Maki, Naobito, Panda, Kusakabe, and others. Their job is to stand by and deal with anything that gets past Gojo. There's no phone signal inside the curtain, and while the civilians aren't in immediate danger, Kusakabe points out that powerful cursed spirits are definitely hiding underground. At 8:31 p.m., Satoru Gojo finally arrives and steps into the curtain. Satoru Gojo arrives on B3F of the Hikari building, where hundreds of civilians are trapped by a curtain. There's another barrier below that keeps non-sorcerers stuck underground. Gojo casually walks through the air over the crowd until he reaches an opening that looks down to the lower floor. After taking a moment to understand the situation, he realizes what the enemy is trying to do and decides to take them head on. Gojo heads down to B5F at the Fukutoshin Line platform, where Hanami, Jogo, and Choso are waiting. Gojo immediately trash talks Jogo, telling him not to make excuses when he loses again. Jogo fires back confidently, saying Gojo should prepare his first excuse instead. Elsewhere, Yuji is placed on Team Mei Mei along with Mei Mei herself and her younger brother, Ui Ui. Yuji wants to rush off to help Gojo, but Mei Mei tells him his chance will come. Soon after, she gets a call and their team is taken off standby. A curtain has appeared over Meiji Jingumai Station, and they're sent to deal with it. At the station, an assistant manager explains the situation. There are 2 curtains, and Team Mei Mei has to remove the first one before reaching B5F. Inside the station, civilians are being attacked by transfigured humans, which makes Yuji realize Mahito must be involved. Mei Mei sends crows to scout the area and shares their vision. Before giving Yuji any details, she asks whether he'd rather fight one strong curse or a bunch of weak transfigured humans. Assuming the second option suits him, she sends Yuji to handle a target between B1F and B2F while she deals with the rest. Yuji promises he won't lose again and enters the station alone. He soon finds a grasshopper-like cursed spirit eating someone's head. The curse brags about being smart and correctly identifies Yuji as a sorcerer. Yuji asks if the patch-faced curse is nearby, and the grasshopper casually mentions Mahito's name. Looking around, Yuji notices a strange nail wrapped in talismans stuck in the ground. When the curse talks about protecting the curtain, Yuji realizes the talisman is what's maintaining the barrier. The grasshopper keeps rambling until Yuji attacks, kicking it through a wall and telling curses to stop looking down on humans. The curse explains it was born from humanity's fear and hatred of locust plagues and boasts about its intelligence and physical power. While it's fast and strong, Yuji easily keeps up. Its jaws and legs cause plenty of destruction, but none of its attacks seriously threaten him. The grasshopper keeps insisting it's clever, until Yuji points out that smart people usually don't need to say it out loud. Embarrassed, the curse covers its mouth. The two exchange close-range blows, but even with 4 arms, the curse is completely outmatched. Yuji overwhelms it with speed and strength. When the curse tries one last trick, Yuji calmly counters, finishes it off, and destroys the talisman, bringing the curtain down. Mei Mei notices the barrier is gone and praises Yuji when they regroup. Ui tells Yuji to just accept the compliment. The team heads down to B5F, where Mahito senses the grasshopper curse has been exorcised. He assumes a capable sorcerer is nearby, but decides to focus on his main task instead. Back at the Fukutoshin line, Hanami blocks the atrium above the tracks with wooden roots. Gojo says he wouldn't run anyway, since leaving would mean the civilians die. Jogo replies that the civilians are doomed regardless. Geto's plan relies on trapping Gojo with civilians so he can't fight freely. Jogo, Hanami, and Choso attack the crowd to create chaos, forcing Gojo to stay restrained. When Jogo and Hanami strike together, their attacks stop against Gojo's infinity. Prepared for that, they activate domain amplification, allowing them to neutralize techniques they touch. Gojo moves to higher ground, and Jogo mocks him for retreating. Gojo admits he's surprised, but only that the curses thought this would be enough to beat him. In the past, people were asked what they knew about Satoru Gojo. Some said he was a teacher, others a benefactor, and some just called him an idiot. No matter the answer, everyone agreed on one thing: he's the strongest. Fast forward to October 31st, Gojo is on B5F of the Fukutoshin platform in the Hikare building, facing off against Jogo and Hanami. Jogo and Hanami attack, but Gojo easily blocks Jogo's punch, flips him over, and dodges Hanami. He rips Jogo's arm off, then uses it to absorb Hanami's follow-up attack, kicking them both across the platform. He even tosses Jogo back, and Hanami quickly realizes Gojo has turned off the Limitless. Thinking Gojo's focus is on Jogo, Hanami activates their cursed technique. Jogo yells a warning, but it's too late. Gojo had been planning this. He rushes Hanami, grabs the roots coming out of their face, and yanks them cleanly out, completely destroying them. Jogo is impressed by Gojo's raw strength even without his cursed technique, while Choso tries to attack with piercing blood, only to be blocked by Gojo's infinity. Gojo decides Choso can wait since he's less aggressive than the others. Jogo and Hanami try using domain amplification to counter Gojo's Limitless, but Gojo warns them it's a mistake. He extends his infinity and traps Hanami against the wall, crushing them into dust while ignoring Jogo's threats against civilians. Gojo then turns calmly and asks, "Who's next?" Geto's plan relies on keeping Gojo near the prison realm for a full minute, something Jogo protested was nearly impossible. Meanwhile, Jogo focuses on survival, using hit-and-run tactics and throwing civilians at Gojo to distract him. Choso reluctantly joins in, but Gojo effortlessly deflects all attacks. By now, Gojo has already used his hand to bait the cursed spirits into close combat. He knows the worst-case scenario would be a wide attack on the civilians, but he's ready to exorcise the curses and avenge anyone lost. At Meiji Jingumai Station, Yuji finds one surviving civilian. They explain everyone else on that floor was turned into monsters and put on the train, leaving only them behind. Shortly after, the person is transfigured and dies in front of Yuji, revealing Mahito is on a train full of cursed humans heading for Gojo. When the train reaches the Fukutoshin platform, the cursed humans spill out, attacking civilians. Mahito gets off and jokes about hunting humans in the forest with Jogo. He reminds Jogo that Hanami would have been upset, but Jogo grimly notes their ally has been killed. Mahito attacks Gojo, testing his infinity, but Gojo counters effortlessly. With civilians falling through the broken atrium from Hanami's roots, chaos spreads. Mahito, Choso, and Jogo try to overwhelm Gojo, expecting him to avoid harming humans. Gojo takes advantage, briefly opening his domain, Unlimited Void, for 0.2 seconds, just enough to paralyze everyone safely while destroying over 1,000 transfigured humans in under 5 minutes. Exhausted but focused, Gojo keeps moving at incredible speed. Then, Prison Realm appears behind him. Gojo meets the user's gaze and realizes the minute needed for the seal is accelerated in his own hyperactive perception. Before he can react, the seal activates. Gojo is trapped, unable to move or access cursed energy. The person in the seal reveals themselves. It's not Geto, but an imposter who swapped brains using cursed technique. Gojo tries to reason, mentioning Yuta Okatsu, but the imposter doesn't care and claims Yuta can't be the next Gojo. Meanwhile, back on the Fukutoshin line near Harajuku, Yuji hears a Mekamaru communication in his ear. Satoru Gojo has been sealed. Kokichi Muta had planned ahead for the Shibuya Incident, leaving a backup plan in case things went south. One of his small, round communication devices, shaped like Ultimate Mechamaru's face, suddenly appeared on Yuji's ear. At first, Yuji almost breaks it, but Mechamaru speaks through the device, saying they're on the same side. Yuji stops and listens, learning that Satoru Gojo has been sealed. Meanwhile, on the Fukutoshin line platform, Gojo is trapped inside Prison Realm. Pseudo Geto says goodbye, claiming they'll meet in the new world. Gojo accepts that he's stuck for now, but tells Suguru to wake up and stop letting himself be controlled. Somehow, this causes Geto's hand to resist the imposter controlling him, fighting back against his own neck. The imposter finds it amusing because it's never happened before. Mahito wakes from his trance, and Geto argues with him about the separation of body and soul, claiming Gojo's situation proves their point wrong. Mahito disagrees, saying curse techniques create different worlds. Gojo, annoyed by their chatter, just tells them to finish the seal so he can stop listening. Geto completes the prison realm seal, trapping Gojo fully and finishing their main goal. Back in Harajuku, Mei is skeptical that Gojo is actually sealed and demands proof. Mechamaru explains his insurance 3 devices only activate if the seal happens, and 1 was left for Mei's team because they were least likely to be moles. Mei doubts this, joking she could still be a mole. Mechamaru warns that powerful curse users are headed their way, and Yuji confirms there are at least 2 enemies incoming, stronger than the grasshopper curse. Mei initially wants to ignore the curse and confirm the seal herself, but Mechamaru insists they follow his plan. Yuji pleads, and she finally agrees. Mechamaru instructs Mei to clear a path so Yuji can get back to Shibuya and spread the word. Soon, the curse user Niji Ebina shows up, and the 3 prepare to fight. On B5F of the Hikari building, Prison Realm is heavy and crashes to the ground, creating a small crater. Inside, Gojo is in a dimension where time doesn't pass. He knows he messed up but isn't worried. He trusts his allies to handle the situation. Meanwhile, more curtains appear across Shibuya, trapping civilians while transfigured humans attack. Team Zenin, Nanami, and Kusakabe are called into action. Nanami is annoyed at the slow response but gets it. Megumi and Ino note that new curtains are blocking access to Gojo and prepare to read the battlefield as they move in. At Shibuya Station, Ijichi tries to coordinate with the assistant managers but is ambushed and stabbed by Haruta Shigemo on orders from Uraume. Another Mechamaru device watches Geto and Mahito as Prison Realm processes Gojo. Mahito destroys the device, but the secret is that sorcerers are converging. Mechamaru relays this to Yuji as he enters a curtain trapping civilians. He fights off several transfigured humans, protects bystanders, and climbs to a rooftop to yell for Nanami, announcing that Gojo has been sealed. Nanami immediately redirects his team to meet Yuji, knowing that without Gojo, humans are at serious risk. Geto and the curses decide on a strategy. Choso wants revenge, Mahito wants to kill Yuji, and Jogo tries to control the game. Everyone leaves B5F except Geto. He notices Mimiko and Nanako in the crowd, refuses to return Geto's body, and tells them to leave while threatening them if they interfere. Nanami's team finds Yuji on the roof, and Mechamaru explains the situation. They plan to attack Gojo's location from nearby subway stations, which means taking down the curtain first. Nanami leaves Yuji and Megumi with Ino, stressing how critical it is to save Gojo. If they fail, humans could lose everything in Japan. Confident, Ino slaps them on the back and tells them it's time to move, promising they'll take down the curtain and rescue Satoru Gojo no matter what. Episode 11. In Shibuya, 4 curtains overlapped across the city, and one of them was stopping sorcerers from moving freely. Yuji tried punching it at full force, but the wall didn't budge. Ino was impressed, comparing Yuji's strength to Nanami's. Megumi suggested they find a weak point and make even a tiny hole in the barrier. While kicking a transfigured human, Yuji asked why this was necessary. Ino explained that barriers are basically walls created by a user to protect themselves, and the user has to be inside. Yuji mentioned what happened at Meiji Jingumai Station, and Ino realized it made sense. Reinforcing the curtain from the outside is risky because of binding vows. The trio quickly figured out the source: Shibuya Central Tower. 3 curse users were on top of the tower, talking about whether the sorcerers would figure out their plan. They agreed that the top was obvious, and even if discovered, the transfigured humans below would act as a roadblock, but Yuji and Ino used Nue to scale the tower and ambush them. With a wire Maki gave him, Yuji snagged all 3 curse users at once. While Yuji distracted them, Ino dashed for the source of the curtain. The elderly male curse, Jiro Awasaka, realized they knew about the curtain setup. Stakes with talismans were the base, already infused with a barrier technique that needed a sorcerer to activate. Ino destroyed 1 talisman but noticed 2 were missing. Awasaka had them. Yuji decided to take Awasaka out, trapping him in the wire and dropping him off the skyscraper. The elderly female curse, Ogami, told her grandson to prepare. Ino lowered his mask, ready to carve a path to becoming grade 1. Yuji regrouped with Megumi on the street. Megumi noticed Awasaka's body looked too clean from the fall and demanded he get up. Awasaka did, cursing Yuji for showing no mercy. They all activated their jujutsu, knowing they couldn't waste time. Ino wanted Nanami to recommend him for grade 1 because he admired him. Using his summons, he conjured Kaichi, a drill-like projectile that carved a section of the grandson's arm. Ogami noted the irony that Ino also used a seance technique. Ino followed up with Reiki, a black liquid he controlled to move quickly and attack. Meanwhile, Yuji and Megumi teamed up against Awasaka. Fighting together was trickier than fighting him alone. Yuji landed punches while Divine Dog's claws slashed Awasaka's face, but he shrugged off the damage and slashed back with a knife. Megumi's toad slammed Awasaka into an overpass, but the curse still stood. Megumi realized they had to figure out his technique fast. Ogami prayed with beads while her grandson protected her. He then consumed a capsule containing Toji Fushiguro's DNA, and through Ogami's seance, Toji's soul entered him. His face started shifting into Toji's, and Ogami praised the transformation. Ino, noticing this, switched focus. He knew stopping Toji-level power would be the real challenge. Megumi tested Awasaka's innate technique, Inverse, which weakens strong attacks and strengthens weak ones. They tricked him into using it, then Toad struck with a weak attack, while Yuji followed with a mix of strong and weak blows. Awasaka staggered, and the two pressed the advantage. Finally, Yuji adjusted his punch into a weaker swing, perfectly countering Inverse, and knocked Awasaka out. Megumi praised Yuji for the precision, and Yuji was surprised he noticed. Episode 12. Earlier that night, Kento Nanami found Kiyotaka Ijichi unconscious and bleeding at Shibuya Station near Exit 13. Seeing his friend like that made him furious. Meanwhile, on the Fukutoshin Line platform between Meiji Jingumai and Shibuya Station, Mei chased after Niji Ebina, who had lost his right leg and was trying to escape. Ui sat on top of Ebina's defeated cursed spirit, while Mei explained how her innate technique worked and the training she went through to become a Grade 1 sorcerer. Ui clapped and even made Ebina clap for her. Ebina begged for forgiveness and swore never to do evil again. Mei asked him a simple question: what makes life valuable? Ui said a person's value is based on how useful they are to Mei. Ebina couldn't answer. Mei concluded that Ebina lost because he couldn't measure a person's value. She declared that service potential was life itself for her and swung her axe, ending Ebina. At the same time, Yuji and Megumi destroyed the curtain blocking sorcerers from entering Shibuya Station, though the barriers keeping Gojo and civilians trapped were still up. Megumi noticed Ino falling from the Shibuya Sea Tower and quickly used Nue to break his fall. Yuji caught him before he hit the ground, checking his head injuries. Above, Ogami ordered her grandson to deal with the sorcerers at the bottom of the tower, but something shocking happened. Toji Fushiguro had taken over her grandson's body, even though she was only using her seance technique to channel Toji's body info. Toji, claiming his body was special, immediately killed Ogami. Back in Shibuya Station, the Zenin team battled transfigured humans. Nobara Kugisaki and Akari Nida heard Ijichi being attacked over the phone and reported it to Maki Zenin. Maki sent the two to find Ijichi, as managers were vital for city communications since cell phones didn't work inside the curtains. Nobara and Akari split off, leaving Maki and Naobito Zenin behind. After rescuing Ino, Yuji wanted to go back to the tower to avenge him, but Megumi reminded him that Ino was alive and convinced Yuji to focus on rescuing Gojo. The first years split up. Yuji headed for the station, and Megumi stayed with Ino. Ui told Mei the curtain was gone, and she got excited thinking Gojo now owed her big time. Meanwhile, Nobara and Akari ran into the curse user Haruta Shigemo on Shoto Bunkamura Street. Shigemo was happy to finally find a girl after attacking so many male managers. Nobara realized he had attacked Ijichi and told Akari to hide in a subway entrance. Shigemo threw his sword at Nobara, but she deflected it with her hammer and charged at him while Akari escaped. The sword, controlled by Shigemo, slashed Akari's ankles, injuring her. Nobara chased him while Shigemo continued dodging her attacks and parrying her nails. Eventually, Shigemo soccer kicked Akari in the chest, leaving her hurt, and Nobara fell to her knees. He taunted her while preparing to finish them off. Nobara tried to buy time by asking about his motivations, but he admitted he killed for fun. He stabbed Akari repeatedly, angering Nobara. She struggled to fight back, and just as they clashed again, the station's glass door shattered. Nanami arrived and immediately glared at Shigemo. He noticed Akari had escaped and demanded Shigemo answer how many curse users there were and where. Shigemo slashed and kicked, but Nanami's attacks didn't even scratch him. Nanami punched Shigemo in the face with his ratio technique, launching him into a glass display. Shigemo tried to flee, but Nanami grabbed grabbed him by the hair, slammed him into a wall, and cracked it. When Shigemo's curse tool attacked from behind, Nobara nailed it to the ceiling. Nanami then revealed he found several dead managers and demanded answers. Shigemo apologized, but Nanami still punched him hard, sending him crashing into a nearby building. Meanwhile, underground on the Fukutoshin Line platform, Mei came face to face with Pseudo Geto. She was shocked to see him, but dismissed the idea that he was the real Geto or that Gojo had messed up. Pseudo Geto summoned a special grade disease curse, Smallpox Deity, promising to fight her himself if she defeated it. The curse activated domain expansion, trapping Mei in a coffin, chanting as a giant gravestone fell toward her. She broke free before it landed, and Y was thrilled. Mei admitted it had been a long time since she was in real danger. At 10:10 p.m., Yuji ran through Shibuya Station, unsure if he was going the right way. Nanami checked on Nobara and Akari, who were recovering. He reassured them that Ijichi would be okay and explained that he had trained as a sorcerer before becoming a manager. Nanami also informed them about Gojo's situation and told them to wait for rescue. Nobara wanted to go help, but Nanami insisted that only grade 1 sorcerers were needed for the coming battles. Down the station, Yuji ran into Choso, who recognized him as one of his brother's killers and immediately activated blood manipulation convergence to attack. After splitting up with Megumi near Shibuya Tower, Yuji dashed along the expressway toward Shibuya Station. As he ran across a bridge, he saw civilians being attacked by transfigured humans below. There were too many of them, and Yuji couldn't save everyone. He hesitated, unsure what to do, until he heard a familiar voice shout, "Spiced Cod Roe." It was Toge Inumaki, giving him a peace sign. Yuji quickly jumped down and told Toge to protect the civilians. Toge responded with, "Salmon, salmon," and Yuji left for the station, trusting his upperclassmen to handle things. Togi pulled out a megaphone and used his cursed speech to control the transfigured humans. At 10:10 p.m., Yuji entered Shibuya Station, expecting chaos but found it mostly empty. He went down a set of stairs and came face to face with Choso, one of the death paintings, who immediately recognized him. Enraged over his brother's deaths, Choso attacked with blood manipulation convergence piercing blood. Yuji barely dodged, twisting his body so the attack pierced the ceiling instead of his arm. Choso immediately followed up, swirling blood between his hands. Yuji ducked, rushed forward, and hit him with an uppercut using his injured arm. Choso blocked with his arm and leg, but Yuji landed a double impact that surprised him. Choso asked if Yuji's victims had last words. Yuji explained they cried but didn't really speak. Enraged, Choso unleashed flowing red scale, covering the ceiling in blood and forming a massive orb in his hand. Yuji charged, wrestling the orb away so it exploded, then tried to punch Choso, who dodged and kicked him back. Spikes of blood rained down as Choso fired a wave at Yuji, blasting him into a wall. Even blinded by blood, Yuji barely dodged a punch aimed to crush him. Choso then hit him in the chest and readied piercing blood again. Yuji realized he needed to control the timing of Choso's attack. Jumping at the right moment, he dodged the blood beam and closed in. Choso activated Supernova, detonating 3 blood orbs that injured Yuji's back, then stabbed his feet with Blood Edge. Yuji used the pain to kick Choso away. Choso tried piercing blood again, sending Yuji flying, and Yuji knew Choso was far stronger than him. Just then, Mekamaru spoke through Yuji's communication device, giving him advice. Yuji barely managed to dodge another attack and sprinted toward a bathroom for cover. Choso followed, destroying parts of the hallway. Mekamaru's device was set up as a decoy in the bathroom, with sprinklers spraying water, which neutralized Choso's blood control. Yuji attacked while Choso's technique was disrupted. The two faced off in close quarters. Yuji landed several punches and kicks, even doing a flying scissor takedown. He tricked Choso with a decoy punch and landed a heavy left blow, but Choso had hardened that part of his body with blood and countered, smashing Yuji into a wall. Yuji was unconscious but still breathing. Choso prepared to finish him, thinking he'd won, while Sukuna watched, disappointed. But Choso had actually punched the wall beside Yuji. As it crumbled, he stumbled back, hit with a sudden memory of a peaceful picnic with all his brothers and Yuji, which confused him. Spitting up blood, he stumbled away, while Mimiko and Nanako appeared to check on the unconscious Yuji. Episode 14. Inside the Smallpox Deity's domain expansion, Ui watched nervously as Mei got trapped under a massive gravestone. The curse started counting down from 3, but Mei managed to break free just in time. She jumped up and swung her axe at the curse, but got instantly trapped in a coffin again. Mei quickly realized how the curse worked. First, it traps the target in a coffin, then drops them underground with a gravestone, and finally, it counts down. If the person doesn't escape in time, they get infected with smallpox and die. Breaking free once more, Mei Mei grabbed Ui Ui and hid behind a tombstone. She noted that the gravestone was the most dangerous part. Getting hit twice more could be fatal, which would be a problem for her fight with Pseudo Geto later. Mei Mei figured out that the curse automatically targets whoever has the strongest cursed energy. 2 of her crows got caught, and 1 died when she increased its cursed energy to test her theory. With that figured out, Mei Mei made a plan. She had Ui Ui draw the curse's attention to buy herself time, knowing it might kill him. Ui Ui was willing, ready to do anything for his sister. He released his cursed energy while Mei Mei held hers back. The curse trapped him in a coffin, but Mei Mei quickly sliced its hands off with her axe, stopping it. Mei Mei explained that Ui Ui's role was more than just a help, he was there to counter domains. Using New Shadow style Simple Domain, he protected himself in the coffin. The signal she gave him about dying for her meant he could finally act. As the curse recovered and attacked again, the last crow flew through it, killing it instantly, but the crow died in the process. After the domain disappeared, Mei Mei and Ui Ui emerged and got ready to face Pseudo Geto, who had summoned a dragon-like curse. Mei Mei called her crows to her side, asking if they were ready to die for her. Meanwhile, at 10:20 p.m. on the Inokashira line, Nanami, Naobito Zenin, and Maki Zenin headed toward B5F. Nanami explained Gojo was sealed and Pseudo Geto was involved. Naobito joked about the Gojo clan declining, but Maki told him to leave if he wasn't helping. The 3 arrived on the lower floors and spotted an octopus-like curse, Dagon. Nanami got ready to strike, but Naobito used his curse technique to trap Dagon in a frame and punched him hard, sending him crashing into a pillar. Dagon vomited the remains of non-sorcerers he'd eaten and then evolved into a huge, muscular form. Dagon created a giant water sphere and flooded the area. Maki stabbed her spear into a pillar to stay safe, while Naobito trapped part of the water with his curse technique. Naobito distracted Dagon with a rant about animation frames, while the curse yelled about naming his allies. Nanami jumped above Dagon to strike, but the curse blocked him and slammed him to the ground. Naobito trapped Dagon and threw him to Nanami for another attack, but Dagon caught the blade and formed a swirling water shield. The 3 sorcerers realized Dagon had massive cursed energy and could use multiple techniques at once. Naobito led a coordinated attack, trying to overwhelm him with speed. Dagon tried to escape, but Naobito predicted it and knocked him back down. Eventually, Dagon tried to cast Domain Expansion, trapping Nanami, Naobito, and Maki in a coastal domain called Horizon of the Captivating Skanda. Piranha-like Shikigami appeared, targeting Nanami and Maki instantly. Naobito countered with Secret Art Falling Blossom Emotion. Dagon focused most of his attacks on Naobito, but Megumi suddenly appeared, giving Maki the cursed tool Playful Cloud so she could fight back. Megumi's domain engaged in a tug-of-war with Dagon's, nullifying some of his attacks. Nanami appeared and helped clear Shikigami with his sword, while Naobito and Maki destroyed others. Meanwhile, Megumi focused on creating a hole in Dagon's domain. He guessed that Dagon couldn't use domain expansion more than once in a day, so if they escaped, they could win. Nanami ensured Megumi wasn't risking himself unnecessarily. The Zenins and Nanami coordinated, and a hole appeared in the ground beneath Megumi, leading outside the domain. But just as they were about to escape, Toji Fushiguro suddenly appeared, entering the domain through the hole. Episode 15. Megumi, running low on energy, tells Nanami that he's not really fighting Dagon head-on. He's trying to open a hole in the domain's barrier. He figures that Dagon probably can't use domain expansion twice in one day, so if the sorcerers can get out, they can win. Nanami makes sure Megumi isn't planning to stay behind, and Megumi confirms he's not risking his life. Nanami tells the Zenins to gather around in his own roundabout way. They trust him and rush over. Dagon notices and panics, trying to stop them, but it's too late. A hole opens beneath Megumi, leading outside the barrier. Just as everyone's about to escape, Toji Fushiguro suddenly appears through the hole. Megumi looks up, surprised to see him floating in midair. Maki notices he's human and wonders if he's a Jujutsu sorcerer, while Dagon is confused why they'd let someone in instead of just leaving. Toji disappears from midair, then grabs Playful Cloud with insane speed, taking it from Maki and throwing her aside. She's shocked. She didn't feel any cursed energy from him and just lost in a pure strength contest. Megumi notes to Nanami that the hole he opened is now closed, and Dagon has caught on to their plan. Now Bito is the only one who recognizes Toji and calls out his name. Toji steps off Megumi's shadows and slowly approaches Dagon, Playful Cloud in hand. It turns out Toji is basically a puppet now. Granny Ogami's seance technique was supposed to end once the host ran out of cursed energy, but Toji's body doesn't use cursed energy. This made the technique run unchecked, leaving Toji to fight purely on instinct. Dagon sees Toji has no cursed energy and thinks he's not worth his attention, summoning an eel-like Shikigami to attack. Toji destroys it in one swing, then charges Dagon and hits him in the head, sending him flying into the water. The fight continues across the water's surface. Dagon tries multiple attacks with fish Shikigami and even an eel, but Toji blocks, dodges, and cuts through everything with Playful Cloud. Even Piranha and giant isopod Shikigami are no match for him. Toji lands on shore and continues to smash Dagon's water shield, hitting him again and again. Maki, dumbfounded, asks Naobito who Toji is, and he simply says, just a ghost. Toji keeps dominating Dagon, stomping and striking him on the head, while Nanami tells Megumi to hold his domain just a little longer. They're relying on Toji to finish the fight. Dagon realizes he could actually lose to a human without cursed energy. He tries to regain the upper hand, but Naobito predicts his move. Toji stacks Playful Cloud's sections, vaults into the air, and with Naobito's help, stabs Dagon straight through the face and eye, obliterating the curse. With Dagon gone, the domain collapses. Maki is amazed Toji took down such a powerful cursed spirit alone. Megumi is exhausted, catching his breath, and Nanami notes that without him, they'd all be dead. The only problem now? They can't be sure if Toji is really on their side. Megumi suddenly finds himself outside, landing safely, but he's shocked at how fast everything happened, faster even than his fight with Sukuna. Maki shouts, but before she can react, Jogo appears, mourning Dagon and immediately attacking Nanami and Maki with cursed flames. Naobito tries to dodge but gets caught in blasts. Meanwhile, Nanako and Mimiko feed Yuji one of Sukuna's fingers to try and bring out Sukuna. Jogo confronts them, but Sukuna takes over Yuji's body, heals himself, and instantly terrifies everyone. The girls try using their techniques, but Sukuna kills them in a gruesome display.
Jogo asks Sukuna to make a binding vow so he can take over Yuji. Amused, Sukuna challenges Jogo. If he can even a single hit on him, he'll cooperate and kill everyone in Shibuya. Jogo accepts, and the fight is set to begin.
As Jogo falls through the sky over Shibuya, he briefly wonders how things got this bad. Right behind him, Sukuna drops after him with a wide, excited grin. Elsewhere in Shibuya, Megumi is having a very bad time. He's being stalked by Toji, who has no cursed energy but moves insanely fast. Megumi compares him to an even scarier version of Maki. With the area cleared of civilians thanks to Inumaki, Megumi focuses and tries to summon Divine Dog Totality. But Toji's presence rattles him and he panics, summoning Rabbit Escape instead. Thousands of rabbits flood the area. Both Megumi and Toji suddenly feel Sukuna's presence appear nearby, which confuses Megumi. Using the chaos, Megumi tries to summon Toad while running, but Toji charges straight through the rabbits and nearly stabs him with Playful Cloud. Megumi barely escapes and ducks into a warehouse, but Toji quickly follows. Megumi knows he doesn't have enough cursed energy left for another domain, so he's forced into close combat. It doesn't go well. Toji blocks every hit, ignores the rabbits, and throws Megumi around like it's nothing. Then he smashes the ground, launching debris and shattering the rabbits in seconds. Megumi is completely terrified. Meanwhile, Kusakabe and Panda are wandering Shibuya, very much lost. Panda wants to rush in and save Gojo, but Kusakabe keeps stalling. The truth is, he doesn't want to fight the people who managed to seal Gojo, and he's hoping to survive by wasting time. They're soon confronted by several curse users who ask them to surrender. Kusakabe tries to talk his way out of danger by asking questions and dragging the conversation out. Back with Megumi, the chase continues through the city. Toji throws trucks and manhole covers at him like toys. Megumi narrowly avoids being crushed and summons Nue to escape into the air. He realizes he has to end this fast, especially since Shoko is somewhere nearby and could heal him if he survives. Megumi lures Toji into a building, floods it with water, and has Nu electrify the room, causing a massive blast. Megumi jumps off the building and cushions his fall with rabbits, but Toji follows instantly. Using Toad, Megumi pulls himself into a narrow alley, forcing Toji into a straight approach. Toji rushes him again, but Megumi times it perfectly and traps Toji's foot in his shadow. Toji still stabs him, but not fatally. Megumi counters and pulls a sword from his shadow, only for Toji to dodge at point-blank range. Suddenly, Toji remembers his past. He recalls selling Megumi to the Zenin clan and remembering his wife's wish for him to take care of their son. He asks Megumi his name. When Megumi answers Fushiguro, Toji smiles, proud he didn't choose Zenin. Then, without hesitation, Toji stabs himself in the head, ending his own life to protect Megumi. Megumi kneels by the body, shocked, and realizes he's badly injured. He decides to check on Maki first, but before he can move, he's slashed from behind by Haruta Shigemo, who happily admits he prefers attacking helpless people. Elsewhere, the lights across Shibuya suddenly go out. Sukuna and Jogo are tearing the city apart. Jogo throws everything he has: fire, magma, explosions, but Sukuna dodges it all easily, mocking him the entire time. Jogo drops a massive meteor on Shibuya, but Sukuna avoids it at the last second. Finally, Sukuna ends the fight with overwhelming flames of his own. He tells Jogo he was strong and that he should be proud. Jogo, finally acknowledged, sheds a tear before dying. As the chaos settles, Sukuna notices someone behind him. It's Uraume, finally reunited with him. At 11:07 p.m. on Dogenzaka, a strange figure approaches Haruta, who stands over Megumi's unconscious body, demanding he wake up. Yuji Itadori remembers his grandfather telling him to help people whenever he can. Back in the present, Sukuna stands on top of the ruins of Shibuya, balanced on Jogo's massive meteor, calmly looking over all the destruction he caused. Earlier that night, near Shibuya 109, a badly injured Megumi is being followed by Haruta Shigemo. Even while barely standing, Megumi explains how his 10 Shadows technique works, mostly to stall. Shigemo doesn't really care and gets distracted when the meteor crashes nearby. That's when Megumi reveals his real plan: summoning a Shikigami that has never been tamed. Doing that forces anyone nearby into an exorcism ritual, meaning Megumi plans to take Shigemo down with him. Megumi remembers Gojo once explaining why the Zenin and Gojo clans hate each other. Long ago, a Zenin clan leader used this exact method to kill both himself and the Gojo clan head. As the area darkens, Megumi begins the chant. Sukuna senses Megumi's cursed energy from far away and tells Uraume to keep preparing for his return before leaving the area. When the light comes back, divine dogs and toads appear briefly before fading away. Behind Megumi stands a restrained humanoid Shikigami wrapped in metal cables. Megumi names it 8-handled sword Divergent Sila Divine General Mahoraga. The restraints snap, smoke pours out, and the Shikigami begins to emerge. Megumi quietly apologizes to Yuji, then wishes Shigemo luck. Mahoraga immediately smacks Megumi into a building, leaving him barely alive. Shigemo panics as Mahoraga approaches. Just as he's crushed under its hand, a quick flashback explains his technique, Miracles. It lets him survive deadly situations by using up stored good luck. Unfortunately for him, he already used all of them earlier against Nanami. In the present, it's revealed Sukuna saved Shigemo at the last second. Sukuna realizes Megumi is stuck in suspended death during the ritual, meaning if Shigemo died, Megumi would die too. Sukuna heals Megumi and decides to fight Mahoraga himself. Mahoraga attacks with the Sword of Extermination, which releases positive energy. Sukuna blocks, dodges, and punches back, turning the fight into a city-wide brawl. Buildings get sliced apart as they trade blows. Sukuna even strolls out of one crash holding popcorn, casually commenting on how dangerous the sword would be to a cursed spirit. Mahoraga keeps adapting. It heals injuries instantly and starts responding better to Sukuna's attacks. The two tear through buildings, parking garages, and streets, with debris flying everywhere. At one point, Sukuna notices Mahoraga adjusting to his slashing techniques and realizes the Shikigami can adapt to almost anything. Seeing that slashes alone won't finish the job, Sukuna opens his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. Unlike normal domains, it doesn't create a closed space. Instead, it covers the real world, massively increasing its range. Sukuna limits it to avoid killing Megumi, but everything else in the area is shredded into dust. Even then, Mahoraga survives and keeps walking towards Sukuna. Deciding not to give it more time to adapt, Sukuna finishes it with the same flaming arrow technique he used on Jogo. A massive explosion erupts, ending the ritual and wiping Mahoraga out completely. Mahoraga's wheel dissolves into shadows. Sukuna tells Shigemo to leave. Shigemo celebrates surviving, only to run straight into the lingering effects of the domain and get sliced in half. As Yuji starts regaining control, Sukuna drops Megumi off with Shoko and Yaga. Back near Shibuya 109, Sukuna forces Yuji to look at the destruction. Once fully awake, Yuji breaks down, vomiting and screaming at himself before calming down. He realizes the only way forward is to keep fighting and helping people. Elsewhere, a badly injured Nanami continues walking through Shibuya Station, burned and missing an eye, but still moving forward. Yuji walks down the stairs in Shibuya Station, thinking about everything that's happened since he joined Jujutsu High and remembering his grandfather's last wish to help others. Nearby, Nanami is barely holding on. Half of his body is badly burned from Jogo's attack, including one side of his face. As he slowly walks through the station, his mind drifts somewhere nicer. He imagines himself on a quiet beach, relaxed and far away from all this chaos. He passes a photo booth, unaware that Mahito is hiding inside it. Nanami keeps moving and runs into a group of transfigured humans. As he fights them, his thoughts wander to Malaysia. He imagines owning a small beach house, reading books, and finally resting. He briefly thinks about Megumi, Maki, and now Bito, wondering if they're okay, and admits to himself that he's exhausted. Still, he keeps fighting. Even though he feels like he's done enough already, Nanami cuts down every transfigured human in his way. After the last one falls, Nanami feels a hand touch his back. He immediately knows who it is, Mahito. Mahito casually says he's been there the whole time and asks if Nanami has any final words. Yuji arrives just in time and sees them from behind. Nanami doesn't answer Mahito. Instead, he talks to Haibara in his mind, wondering why he ever came back to being a sorcerer. He decides he doesn't want to leave Yuji with regret or bitterness. In his final moment, Nanami turns, sees Yuji, smiles, and silently asks him to take care. Mahito then kills Nanami instantly, blowing apart his upper body right in front of Yuji. Yuji snaps. Furious and heartbroken, he screams and charges at Mahito. Mahito finds the reaction entertaining and calmly prepares to fight. Mahito starts the battle by throwing a small transfigured human at Yuji, turning it into a wall. Yuji hesitates when it begs for help but pushes through. Spikes stab him, monsters attack him, and Mahito keeps changing shapes to overwhelm him. Yuji gets knocked around, punched, and slashed, but he keeps standing back up. Mahito mocks Yuji, laughing about how many people he's killed. He even recreates Junpei's face just to mess with him, saying they're the same deep down. Yuji is furious, but he remembers Nanami's words and forces himself to stay calm. He steadies his breathing and focuses, determined to keep moving forward as a jutsu sorcerer. The fight spills through hallways, elevators, and stairwells. Mahito uses civilians as weapons, turning them into bullets, blades, and traps. Yuji dodges, punches back, and barely avoids getting crushed or sliced apart. At one point, the elevator they're fighting in breaks and falls, forcing Yuji to escape by hanging onto cables. Mahito keeps switching tactics, noticing that Yuji is strong enough to kill him if he lands a clean hit. Yuji realizes Mahito has gotten more dangerous too. When Yuji tries to protect two civilians, Mahito reveals himself by bursting out of one of them and turning the other into a weapon, clearly enjoying Yuji's anger. As the chaos continues, it's revealed that earlier, Mahito split himself in two to hunt Yuji more efficiently. One version of him runs into Nobara in an alley. She recognizes him, insults him, and fights back fiercely using her nails and explosions. Mahito admits she's skilled, but decides he'll kill her anyway, and plans to use her death to hurt Yuji even more. At 11:14 p.m. after Nanami left Nobara and Akari with the paramedics, Nobara refused to evacuate. Akari explained that Nanami hadn't told Nobara where Shoko Yeri was on purpose. Worried Nobara would rush off and get herself killed, Nobara didn't care. She ignored both Nanami's orders and Akari's pleas and chose to go alone. In her mind, running away while everyone else was fighting just wasn't an option. Back in the present inside Shibuya Station, Mahito impales 3 civilians and hurls them toward Yuji as he runs up the stairs. Yuji stops to check one of them, but the person suddenly mutates and explodes. Blood splashes into Yuji's eyes, blinding him for a moment. Mahito takes advantage of this, turning his arm into a spiked club and swinging from behind to finish him. At the same time, Mahito's double is fighting Nobara in Dogenzaka Alley. Nobara dodges his hands and trades blows, unaware that this version of Mahito can't reshape other people's souls. Her attacks don't seem to do much damage, and she gets cut on the arm. Mahito points out how pointless her efforts are, but Nobara refuses to quit, even if it's not working. Nobara climbs higher in the alley and throws cursed nails around Mahito. She sets off an explosion at his feet, then another one moments later. This time, the nails stab upward through his legs, pinning him in place. The first blast was just to set everything up. While Mahito is stuck, Nobara jumps on him, drives a nail into his head, and activates Resonance. Using Mahito's double as a target, Resonance hits Mahito's real body instead. Nails suddenly burst out of Mahito's chest back at the station, stopping him from killing Yuji. Yuji realizes Nobara helped him. At the same time, the damage echoes back to the double, who starts coughing up blood in shock. Mahito's clone finally understands that Yuji isn't his only threat. Nobara points out the clues she noticed: his weaker cursed energy, his hesitation, and the way Resonance worked. She correctly guesses he's just a double. Mahito admits she's right, amused even as he bleeds. With Mahito weakened, Yuji unloads a storm of cursed energy punches. Mahito can barely move as Yuji slams him into a pillar over and over. While attacking, Yuji quietly thanks Nobara for proving he isn't fighting alone. Meanwhile, the double Mahito decides not to keep fighting Nobara. He runs into the subway instead. Nobara chases him, feeling like letting him escape would be a mistake.
Mahito's main body suddenly splits into small copies to escape Yuji. Yuji spots one with stronger cursed energy and crushes it, but it's a trick. The real Mahito reforms elsewhere and runs. Yuji chases him, while Nobara continues after the other one.
Both Mahitos enter the same corridor, with Yuji and Nobara approaching from opposite sides. Yuji realizes too late what's about to happen and screams for Nobara to run. Mahito reaches her first and touches her face. Yuji instantly kills the double, but it's already too late. As Nobara realizes what's happening, memories flood her mind, playing games with friends, growing up in her village, meeting Fumi and Saori, and deciding to leave for Tokyo. She thinks about how loud and cruel people could be, but also how Jujutsu High showed her that not everyone was like that. Looking at Yuji one last time, Nobara asks him to tell everyone she lived a good life. Then the left side of her face swells and bursts from Mahito's technique. Yuji watches in shock as she collapses in front of him. As Nobara's blood splashes onto Yuji's face, his mind flashes back to a quieter moment. Nobara accidentally spilled her drink all over Gojo's shirt. She immediately blamed Ajichi for leaving Gojo's freshly cleaned clothes with them, but Yuji and Megumi weren't buying it. All three tried desperately to dab the stain out together. It didn't work. The shirt was still ruined. Nobara suggested buying Gojo a new one, but Megumi checked the tag and nearly passed out when he saw the price, 250,000 yen. Nobara confidently said the boys could pay 80,000 each while she'd cover the rest. Right then, Gojo showed up, noticed Megumi acting weird, and realized his shirt was stuffed inside Megumi's jacket. Nobara and Yuji tried to hold it in but completely lost it laughing. Back in the present, Nobara lies motionless in front of Yuji, her left eye gone and half her face soaked in blood. With Choso's defeat, Sukuna's massacre, and Nanami's death piling up in his head, Yuji starts to break. He struggles to breathe and barely manages to say Nobara's name. Mahito watches with satisfaction and smashes Yuji with a cursed energy punch, landing a black flash. Mahito doesn't stop there. He keeps beating Yuji down, mocking him for being weak and unsure. He says they're actually pretty similar. Mahito kills without thinking, and Yuji saves people just as blindly. To Mahito, their fight is about which way of living deserves to exist. After tearing Yuji down completely, Mahito asks if Yuji ever counted how many curses he's killed. When Yuji doesn't answer, Mahito laughs and says he never cared how many humans he's killed either. As he forms his arm into a blade to finish Yuji, a sudden clap rings out and Yuji vanishes. Aoi Todo appears, quoting an old story and striking a dramatic pose. Using Boogie Woogie, he saved Yuji just in time. Earlier, Todo and Arata Nida arrived near where Gojo was sealed and realized the prison realm was gone. Todo decided their priority should be saving other sorcerers. Feeling his brother nearby, he rushed ahead. Mahito recognizes Todo right away. Arata shows up too, having treated Nobara, and quietly tells Todo that she's likely already gone. Todo brushes it off and tells Arata to help Yuji instead. He then tells Yuji it's time to wake up. The real fight is starting. Yuji admits he's done. Seeing Nanami and Nobara die, and knowing what Sukuna did through him, completely crushed his will. He says he can't forgive himself. Mahito rushes in to kill him, but Todo swaps Mahito with Arata at the last second, then swaps again and kicks Mahito straight in the face. Mahito laughs, impressed by how confusing Todo's technique is. Todo tells Yuji to stop tearing himself apart. He reminds him that he's a Jujutsu sorcerer, just like Nanami and Nobara were. As long as sorcerers keep fighting, the dead aren't truly defeated. Searching for meaning in their deaths won't honor them. Fighting will. Todo throws off his jacket and tells Yuji to remember what was entrusted to him. Whether he understands it now or not, he has to keep going. Arata treats Yuji's injuries and explains his technique can only stop wounds from getting worse. He also admits Nobara has no pulse, but says there's still a tiny chance. He carries her away. Todo and Yuji regroup and fight Mahito together. With clever swaps and teamwork, Yuji lands another Black Flash. Both sorcerers hit their stride, standing together against Mahito. Elsewhere, Mekamaru sends a final message to Kasumi, telling her to stay away. He admits he tried to protect everyone because he was weak and because there was someone he loved. After saying goodbye, his signal fades and Kasumi breaks down. Back in Shibuya, the fight crashes through floors and into the streets above. Bruised and smiling, Mahito challenges Yuji one last time to give it everything he has. Transfigured humans start bursting out of the ground all over Shibuya, flooding the streets with chaos. Yuji and Todo make their way back up to the surface, where Mahito drops down in front of them. Mahito yells at Yuji to give it everything he's got, saying this is their last chance to truly curse each other. Dudu reminds Mahito he's still here by clapping his hands and using Boogie Woogie to swap Yuji and Mahito's positions. He grabs Mahito in place so Yuji can jump in for a kick, but Mahito reacts fast and rips off his own head to escape. A new head grows back, shaped like a smiling snail, while his old head scurries away and regrows into a second body. Now split in two, Mahito keeps attacking. The original body lashes out with whip-like arms, while the second Mahito combines several weak souls into one strong transfigured human called a polymorphic soul isomer and sends it charging at the sorcerers. Todo quickly swaps places with it, redirecting the attack. He guesses Mahito split his power unevenly, leaving the main body weaker, and sends Yuji after it while he handles the new threat. At first, Todo thinks the polymorphic soul isomer won't be a big deal, but it surprises him with a brutal punch that sends him flying through buildings. He recovers, tricks it with another swap, and knocks it out with one clean hit. He realizes it hits hard but can't take much damage. Two more of the creatures show up, and Todo jumps back into the fight after a quick moment of self-motivation. Meanwhile, Mahito recombines his bodies and focuses on Yuji, firing off attacks non-stop. Yuji dodges, counters, and even drop-kicks Mahito, but the curse keeps pushing back. They end up in a wide-open crater left behind by Sukuna earlier. Mahito is annoyed to see Todo back again and considers using his domain, but doing it normally would get him killed by Sukuna. Instead, Mahito takes a risk and activates his domain for just 0.2 seconds. Todo protects himself with simple domain, but Yuji rushes in to stop Mahito anyway. Mahito is faster and manages to use his technique, briefly touching Sukuna's soul and mocking him. When the domain ends, Todo's hand starts transforming. He immediately cuts it off to survive.
Mahito lands a massive Black Flash punch on Todo, badly injuring him but not killing him. As Mahito goes in to finish him off, Todo's necklace breaks open, revealing photos of Yuji and Takada. Fired up, Todo uses Mahito's own hand to clap and activate Boogie Woogie one last time. Yuji swaps in and smashes Mahito with another Black Flash.
Todo collapses unconscious, leaving Yuji alone. Mahito, thrilled by the fight, evolves again after landing two Black Flashes and transforms into a new form he proudly names. Yuji makes fun of him anyway, and they charge at each other. Mahito's new body is way tougher, and Yuji struggles to hurt him. Mahito slams Yuji into the ground, flooding the crater with water. Yuji realizes the only way to win is another Black Flash. Both are exhausted, but neither backs down. At the critical moment, Todo distracts Mahito with a fake clap. Mahito falls for it, and Yuji lands a final full-power Black Flash that blows Mahito out of the crater and breaks his new form. Broken and terrified, Mahito tries to escape. Yuji follows him calmly, comparing himself to a wolf hunting prey. Mahito trips, panics, and begs as Yuji closes in. Before Yuji can finish him, Pseudo Geto appears and asks Mahito if he needs saving. At 11:28 p.m., Panda, still in gorilla mode, is digging through the wreckage near Shibuya Stream after Jogo's massive meteor attack. He spots the handle of a katana sticking out of the rubble and finds Atsuya Kusakabe buried underneath. Panda pulls him free. After witnessing Sukuna's destruction firsthand, Kusakabe bluntly says he supports Yuji's execution. Around the same time, at 10:36 p.m. in Kuala Lumpur, Mei Mei is relaxing in a hotel room with Ui Ui. She teases him for being exhausted and embarrassed, then steps away to take a phone call. On the call, she explains that she barely escaped Pseudo Geto using Ui Ui's technique. She advises the caller to immediately sell all Japanese stocks and Tokyo real estate, predicting Japan's economy will collapse and affect the rest of the world. She's already converted her money and casually looks forward to doing business together later. Back in Shibuya Station's underground, Choso wakes up crying after another fake memory of Yuji eating happily with his brothers. Confused but determined, he decides to move out and figure out the truth about himself and Yuji. At 11:36 p.m., Pseudo Geto asks a badly beaten Mahito if he wants to be saved. Yuji immediately charges at him, demanding that he return Gojo. Pseudo Geto ignores this and starts talking about an old belief that earthquakes were caused by a giant catfish underground. As he speaks, he summons a cursed spirit shaped like a catfish. Suddenly, a huge hole opens beneath Yuji, making him think he's falling, only for him to land normally on the ground. Pseudo Geto explains that nothing actually happened. Yuji just tripped in everyone else's eyes. He says the strength of cursed spirit manipulation is having endless options. Even if one curse is defeated, he can just summon another. Yuji attacks again, jumping to avoid the catfish curse, but Pseudo Geto releases a swarm of centipede curses that trap him. The catfish reappears, and Yuji falls again. Pseudo Geto casually remarks that Suguru Geto would have beaten Yuta Okatsu if he hadn't split his forces back then. Yuji, still injured, demands Gojo back, which only makes Pseudo Geto laugh. Mahito suddenly attacks Pseudo Geto from behind, trying to use idol transfiguration. It doesn't work. Pseudo Geto easily dodges and captures Mahito, who admits he always knew Pseudo Geto was hiding something. Mahito is compressed into a black orb despite struggling. Pseudo Geto continues talking like nothing happened. He explains maximum techniques, focusing on his own, Uzumaki, which fuses curses into a powerful blast. He admits he didn't care much for it at first, but later realized it could extract cursed techniques from strong curses. He then swallows the orb containing Mahito, adding him to his collection. Suddenly, Pseudo Geto calls out Momo Nishimiya, who's been floating above on her broom. She signals the others. Noritoshi fires arrows, Mai shoots a sniper rifle, and Kasumi Miwa rushes in using simple domain and swings her sword. Pseudo Geto catches the blade barehanded and shatters it, then fires Uzumaki. Kusakabe saves Miwa at the last second. More sorcerers arrive, including Panda and Yuta Jaime. Choso then shows up and recognizes Pseudo Geto as Noritoshi Kamo, the ancient sorcerer who abused his mother and created the death paintings. He shouts this out, shocking everyone. Pseudo Geto casually confirms it, saying he's gone by many names. Furious, Choso attacks to protect Yuji, calling himself his older brother. He launches piercing blood at Pseudo Geto and Uraume, starting a fast-paced fight in the air. Pseudo Geto counters with curses and skill, eventually gaining the upper hand. Seeing an opening, Panda leads the others forward, but Uraume releases a freezing mist, trapping nearly everyone in ice. Pseudo Geto tells Uraume not to kill them since he needs witnesses. Yuji breaks free enough to save Choso, who insists again that he's Yuji's big brother. As Uraume prepares another deadly ice attack, everything suddenly stops. Yuki Tsukumo arrives, completely unfazed, and casually asks Pseudo Geto what kind of women he's into. Episode 23. Yuki asks Pseudo Geto if he remembers a conversation they had 12 years ago about getting rid of cursed spirits entirely. She's mostly stalling so LaRue can get into position. Yuki explains that she believes humans should eventually separate themselves from cursed energy altogether. Pseudo Geto disagrees and says cursed energy should instead be refined and improved. Yuji, still partly frozen, has no idea what either of them is talking about. Pseudo Geto says he assumed Yuki gave up on her ideas after Toji Zenin died. Noticing the stitches on his forehead, Yuki decides there's no point digging into his past anymore and shifts to criticizing his plan. She points out that since curses and sorcerers mostly exist in Japan, using Tengen's barrier to optimize cursed energy would only benefit Japan. That would basically turn Japan into the world's main cursed energy hub, which would freak out other countries once humans themselves became energy sources. To Yuki, that future sounds like a mess, not progress. Pseudo Geto laughs and says her vision was never his goal. He doesn't want peace or a curse-free world. To him, sorcerers, non-sorcerers, and cursed spirits are all just different forms of cursed energy shaped like people. He says he's always believed humans had more potential, which is why he created the death paintings back when he was known as Noritoshi Kamo. But since his creations are limited by his own abilities, he wants to unleash chaos he can't control and see what comes out of it. Having already taken Mahito's cursed technique, Pseudo Geto gets ready to use it. Yuki quickly asks Yuji what happened to Mahito, and Yuji admits that Pseudo Geto already absorbed him. That clearly worries Yuki. Pseudo Geto slams his hand on the ground, creating a huge purple seal that stretches into the sky. At first, Yuki thinks something happened to Tengen's barrier, but then realizes he's remotely activating a cursed technique. Pseudo Geto thanks Yuji for helping Mahito grow stronger before being absorbed. He explains that techniques stop developing once absorbed, which is why he wanted Mahito to reach his peak first. He then explains what he's done. He used idol transfiguration on 2 groups of people who were already marked. One group had swallowed cursed objects long ago, like Yuji did with Sukuna. The other group had brains meant to be non-sorcerers like Junpei. By altering them, he turned some into proper vessels and others into full sorcerers with innate techniques. Undoing a symbolic knot, Pseudo Geto reveals he's removed the seals on those cursed objects, allowing them to awaken. Somewhere else, Tsumiki Fushiguro wakes up in a hospital as the same mark appears on her forehead. Pseudo Geto explains that he plans to have these new sorcerers fight and kill each other to deepen their understanding of cursed and basically releasing chaos on a massive scale. Yuki doubts people would willingly do that, but Pseudo Geto says he planned for that too. Annoyed, Yuki tells Yuji to help her beat him up, but Yuji still can't move. Suddenly, the ice trapping everyone melts as Arame collapses. Choso explains that his poisonous blood must have gotten to them earlier. With everyone freed, Panda and Noritoshi prepare to fight again, while Kusakabe stays down, exhausted. Pseudo Geto keeps talking, revealing the cursed objects came from sorcerers he made vows with over 1,000 years ago, vows that broke once he took Geto's body. Declaring this the world's future, he summons curses to cover his escape. Before leaving, he shows Yuji the prison realm and says he expects great things from him. He also asks if Sukuna is listening, announcing that the golden age of Jujutsu has returned. Days later, regular people hear about Shibuya through the news and mostly assume it was terrorism or a disaster. Jujutsu headquarters reports massive damage, millions of curses released, and missing political leaders. They decide to evacuate the area and eventually tell the public about cursed spirits, claiming they only appear in Tokyo to keep panic contained. In Shibuya, a young girl scavenges for food when a creepy figure tries to lure her outside. It turns out to be bait for a curse, but Yuta Okotsu suddenly appears and kills it. He checks on the girl and gently covers her eyes when things get messy, scolding Rika for being too rough. Later, Yuta meets the higher-ups. He bluntly questions whether killing curses is enough to prove loyalty and declares he'll personally execute Yuji, even if Yuji was Gojo's student. Soon after, official orders go out. Geto is confirmed alive and marked for execution, Gojo is exiled, Yaga is sentenced to death, Yuji's execution resumes, and Yuta is named his executioner. At dawn, Yuji stands on a bridge, turns off his flashlight, claps his hands, and massive cursed spirits rise from the water below. This is where the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen ends. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you may be notified whenever we upload the next recap video. Cheers!